I'm now continuing my video on how to install DOS on the MiSTer FPGA. At the end of the first video I was installing Freedos, and as we see here it's now installed. So we'll click yes to reboot. And I'm not sure if we will have to remove the boot disk, or if maybe it'll still need the boot disk for the boot. Let's change the boot order so that it boots directly from the disk. Now we have these options, and this is just how Freedos works when it's installed. You automatically get all of these options. And it even has a cute mouse as part of it. Alright, this is now the Freedos disk, install disk. So since we have Freedos installed now, we don't really need that anymore, so I'll use my MS-DOS disk and reset again. An interesting thing about Freedos is that it seems to allow for even more memory free. So when I type mem, it'll show that we now have 632 conventional memory free. But on the other boot that I showed, we only had 617 memory free, and that was even when we tried to load as few things as possible. And that seems to be because with Freedos we actually have more to work with. It's better at loading things into upper memory. And another thing to note is how the XMS is now 130 megabytes or kilobytes of memory, which should be about 128 actual megabytes. And that's because it's now 32-bit, which means it also supports disks of a much larger size. And part of it is that I can also now click arrow up and it'll remember previous commands. Let's see. So if I do this, it'll it's the same thing as what DOS key would do in regular DOS. But now I'll try to show FreeDOS, because FreeDOS also works with this. And I looked up how to actually get it installed properly, so we select option and let's see, like this. So here we can set up how it should work, because then it will actually change the startup options. So I'm wondering if that is enough. Display looks fine. Up. Swapping. So these stack sizes means that it'll be able to remember command history and such. Oh, did it save this time? Let's try that again. Photos, option. Seems it did save, so let's try that. And so now it has an FDOS folder. The interesting thing is whether it actually uses the DOS one at all. But let's try to see what happens if we edit the auto exec bat file. So this is how the bat file looks for Freedos. So instead of mouse it uses CT mouse, but that's also what we were using before anyway. A lot of files are commented out. This, for example, is actually the CD utility that I was talking about earlier. It's part of Freedos, and it was using it under the installation, I think, to consider it a CD drive, although it didn't really need to. The installation disk that I made. It seems to have a configuration file here. But I can't see anything about Freedos. If it's using Freedos, it should show something. About loading the shell. And now as you can see, it's actually the Freedos edit program instead of the edit for MS-DOS. And it's probably better because it has a few advantages. So let's try to take a look at the sys file. And an interesting thing here is that now it's called fd-config-sys instead of just config-sys. And it has all of these options. And this also works in a pretty interesting way. One thing is you can set menu colors, and I'm pretty sure this works the way that that if you select what option 1, 2 or 4, it'll use this line. If you select 1 or 2, it'll select this line, and 1, 2, 4, it'll select this one. So this is how you can go through these. So you could say DOS equal high and then comma UMB, but splitting it into 2 lines means that you can run it separately, and that is useful for making options like this. And then it loads shell. But none of them are using Freedos. So Freedos probably doesn't work this way because it's because Freedos is so different. But we can always do this. Let's see. Let's just click L key. So low tie C and 4 does 8. and Freedos.com, I think it's called. And then we save this, and then we exit, and then we'll just reset, see what happens. Performing action APM does. It still complains about this ini file. Maybe that's actually all it's needing. But now it's loading Freedos, so let's see how much memory we have left. $620, so still better than under the regular version of DOS. So let's see if we actually have the ability to create really long file names. I guess it still only supports 8-character file names. But the next thing to test is that we can use the Freedos disk. So notice this one has 500 megabytes free, or million bytes. And if I reset, no. Here we go. Out of memory. Well, 2 gigabytes free. Oh, now I don't have any Norton Commander. Why doesn't that work? Now, one of the differences with FreeDOS and the regular version of DOS is that the program Game Wizard that I showed before actually isn't supported by FreeDOS. I wonder why it's so slow. Maybe it is lacking some buffer or something. Could also be it's the Freedos part. But first, let's copy Norton Commander. And while it's doing that, I'll show you how this one works. So the SHSU CD suite provides access to Cd-Rom drive. The original driver was called MS-CDAX. That was one that comes with. I'm not sure if it comes with DOS or if it comes with Windows 95, but it still works with DOS 6.22. But it also has the option to simulate a Cd-Rom using an image file, and it can do it in memory, but that seems risky. I'm not sure how you would have enough memory for actually doing that. Unless it's a really small Cd-Rom, maybe. Or it could be that if you are using it with DOSBox or something, it might actually be able to support gigabytes of memory, and then it's not a problem to load it into the memory. It also has a CD tester, and there's this smart drive patcher which is that usually MSTDX would use smart drive to add cache to the CD drive, and this one makes it possible to also have cache added to your virtual or actual CD drive. So let's edit auto access, because we need to add the path. And now it's actually using a pretty useful command here. So let's try to reuse that. So what it does is it sets set path, and then it uses a path variable which is set here to be the DOS directory .bin, and the DOS directory is set up here to be the fdos directory. So we still have the old DOS directory, but it's just not used right now. And let's also not do this one anymore. Instead, I'll outcomment it, and then I'll add that as the path. So yeah, what this does is it adds the path that's already there, and then it, on top of the current path, it adds this DOS-dir links path. So since that's already added, we don't need to do that again. But now I can add, for example, the not command directory, and let's also add Freedos 8, so that we can easily load Freedos if we want, and then we don't have to load it like this. But the best thing is if we set it up in the config.sys file to load like it does for the other one. Then it uses less memory because it'll be the default shell instead of DOS shell. And let's see, do we need others? I think that's actually it. Oh yes, and here it sets plaster, so that it's easier for it for games to set up these things. Sets up keyboard, sets up the Cd-Rom drive. Yes. So the next thing to do is probably to test Cd-Rom drives. I think this one has some Cd-Rom drives. And now we have 633 memory free. And on drive D, I have this CD folder with ISO files, and I actually pre-made some executables. Yeah, this is actually a problem with this error only comes when I'm using Freedos. I'm not sure exactly what causes it, but I think it's something that sets the text library or something for Norton Commander. So the error comes, but it doesn't really do anything. And this bat file just makes it easier to mount stuff. So normally you use this command to create the hard disk drive image, with the if parameter, and %1 means that it's a parameter, and that's the first thing you enter after typing the bat file name. So that means now I just have to type mount and whatever ISO file name there is, and it'll mount it. So let's try it. We have one called bam.iso mount bam.iso, and now this doesn't work because it doesn't actually have that file. Let's see if it is true that we don't actually have any of the files. Oh, CT mouse is actually a lot of things, it seems. So it doesn't have all the SUCD. Maybe that's because I didn't do the full install. So let's instead try I'll just mount the DOS disk, reset, and let's quickly show where I'm getting it from. So this is the repository, and that's actually not where I'm getting it from. So we have to go here and select this version. Let's see. Yes. And just make one here called software. Yes, so that's actually still only some of the files. Do we need this one? Wait, which one is it? This is the one, yes. Notice that it has smarter, and it has the HD one, this one, yes. And that is the relevant one. Those are the ones I've already downloaded here. This is another thing. Sometimes this happens with FDOS. Don't know why, but if it does happen, it has to be reset. And then it usually works the second time. Pretty strange error. And I have these DOS tools, and one of the ones I have here is What should be? Yes, SHSD. But I actually already did this over here, so we'll just copy these files, because this folder is where I extracted it on this disk. Oh, but that actually does give me the opportunity to show how it works with zip files. So I can click a zip file and it'll open it and just be able to display what files are actually inside the zip file, which is very useful. So I could go here, say extract this file, and then we overwrite this one. So we don't have to actually extract all the files at once. And now that we have these ISO tools, we can add them to the path. It was this one. So C and ISO tools and save and reset. Oh wait, we also need to change the disk back to this disk. And then we're back with this, and it has the mount command, and now it says it's installed. But now it then it still doesn't show any new drive, which is because it actually needs this part also, which loads the driver for virtual CD drives. So that's called load VCD. Now it has created a drive E, and I think it actually already mounted the ISO file. Yes, because it mounted the ISO file when we ran the other command, and this just actually activated the driver for this drive. So now you can use it as a regular CD. Oh wait. With Freedos that works. Let's try. Am I wrong? Something seems very wrong. That's pretty strange. Well, you can see that there's an install.exe file here. So if we run that, it'll think it's installing this game from the Cd-Rom. So yeah, this could actually have you use regular CDs with your DOS. And since it's Freedos is 32-bit, you can make really large disks for it. So that's pretty useful. So that you can actually have all your games on it. But there is a problem with Freedos that it doesn't support, for example, Game Wizard. But also that the core itself for MiSTer is not very fast. It says in the core, let's see here. So in the description for this core, it says that it has actually that was too far left back there. It says it's 90 megahertz instead of 30, but it doesn't really at all feel like let's see. So here it explains, yeah, it supports RTC, which is nice. Keyboard and mouse controller, Sound Blaster, standard VGA, so no Super VGA yet. And here it mentions, oh wait, this is the original configuration. And it was only running version 2.6.2, but I know that in the updated version that Sorgeli has made, he's using 6.2.9 instead, so it's much newer. But as I showed in the last video, I think it was, it has a 6.2.11 now, so there's a few more things to get, possibly. I'm not sure if all of it would work, because some of it is based on emulation, like supporting the 3DFX cards, but with an FPGA it wouldn't be emulation, and I'm not sure it's capable of actually emulating a 3DFX card, even if anyone takes the time to make it possible to run it on an FPGA. But as it says here, it's now the clock is 90 megahertz instead of 30. But I'm not sure we are actually getting much benefit from that, because it can barely run Doom. And this game as well, actually, most CD games won't really run very well, because they're just too demanding for this system. So now it's trying to run the game, and probably because we said those things, it can detect the sound card, and it just works. It detected everything, and now it will try to... No, it didn't try to run the game. I'll have to type this also. But yeah, this game is not running very well. It's not actually even running at all here. Let's try to see if it helps running it without EMS memory. But now I need to run the CD drive again. So drive D, CD, CD, and can't load it into high memory. We don't need that anyway though. Load VCD. And so now we can return to drive C and go into interplay. And try running the game. I have actually gotten this game to work, but that might have been using the regular version of DOS instead of this version. Another thing to show is Game Wizard. It complains about this. So now it's complaining about EMS being disabled. So if we reboot and choose the one with EMS memory, it will still have the same problem. Not the same problem, but now we will see that it just doesn't work with Freedos. So it just freezes here and doesn't load anything. But yes, that is Freedos. It does work pretty well. It has some nice options. Another thing to show could be actually the disks itself. So now this is the disk I had already set up before. So I've already, this is a 4 GB FreeDOS disk with games installed and such. So if it's up here, we can see it has 2000 megabytes free. So that's 2 gigabytes free, even though it already has a lot of stuff on it. For example, all of these games. There's a game here called Willy Burmish that with the regular DOS settings, FreeDOS settings will run quite well. Let's just jump to game. Or actually, can we restore game maybe? Oh, I already clicked jump to game. Let's see, we need to try to quit the game. Now he's in the principal's office. There we go. Menu, quit. And syndicate, for example. So we have this one. And it runs with both music, audio, the intro, everything. It's not running full speed in the game though. I've been playing this quite a bit. But it plays well enough. It only slows down when you have large explosions and such. And as long as that's not happening, it seems to run at least close to full speed. But there's also some alternatives to using Freedos. The other one is to use MS-DOS 8 or 7 that comes from Windows 98. So it even has the Windows 98 boot screen. And I'm just using the, it says incorrect DOS version because it's trying to use commands from the other boot. And notice that it has added this config has the Freedos shell added to the boot. And the disk here is also a 4 GB disk, so it has 2.7 GB free. But one thing I haven't tried with this is actually seeing if Game Wizard works. Let's first check how much memory we have. So it has a few of the benefits for that Freedos has. So as you can see, it has 128 megabytes XMS memory, while it also has 32 megabyte EMS memory. And also I just realized, I think I only have a 128 megabyte expansion on the MiSTer. So I'm guessing that the EMS memory is actually part of the XMS memory. So while it shows it as having this amount of XMS memory, using the EMS memory would probably also use XMS memory. And if you use more than 100 megabyte of XMS memory, it'll begin using EMS memory as well. But it also explains that here that it's using XMS memory to simulate EMS memory. So yeah. But this has 624 kilobytes conventional memory free, but also 12 kilobytes of upper memory, so it actually has more memory than the Freedos installation. So that's pretty nice. And I do have the mouse loaded. So now it's time to test Game Wizard. And it works. So as long as there's a few things that probably doesn't work with this version of DOS, but it might be the best version for most things. Let's maybe try well, we can test with the Burmish here. It didn't autocomplete. Maybe Freedos isn't working with this. So, yeah, that runs pretty well. Might actually be running better. I'm not completely sure. So let's try Syndicate again. Yeah, Freedos isn't working. I wonder if anything changes if it does this. No. Freedos. Let's see. It was does tools. Oh. Don't have it. I guess that explains why it doesn't load. Let's fix that first. These are tools I have installed on it. And then there's the dust tools that's missing. Nothing. Oh, I'm looking at the same folder. Here we go. Yes, Freedos 8. Oh wait, it was the... This? Yes, it's expecting that folder. Now it has Freedos as well. So if I click CD and tab, I can get the different so this game usually didn't run very well, but it might run better in this version of Dust, so I'm giving it a go. It takes a while for the game to start. Or is it just not starting? Here we go. And then the problem I had with the last time is that the audio was running, but it didn't match the images in the game. Oh, that's slow. That might actually be a good thing, because last time it was running much too fast in the graphics and the audio was running at the normal speed. But it's not a good thing if it doesn't continue from here, of course. Yeah, that doesn't seem to work. Installing this version of DOS is also possible by using files from WinWorld, as I showed earlier. I can show it again here. WinWorldPC. So if you go to the library and there's DOS 628, and there's this one. This one says it's... Oh, it is English. Let's try to see... Wait. Back to DOS. Version... Yeah, so see, it's 7.10. And this one is also 7.10. So if you install this version of DOS instead of the other one, it can even be installed from CD, but since we don't, and it doesn't support booting from a CD, then that probably won't help much. There's also some hints here on how you can install it. But this version of DOS will support 32-bit and will support larger disks, and as you can see, it gives some memory advantages as well. Alright, another thing, test the memory. So 620 kilobytes free, and that's with FreeDOS active. If we disable FreeDOS, it might get 7 kilobyte more. Conventional memory free. I have another thing to try. We actually have Windows 95 here. And this runs, but it's pretty slow. So running games on it is probably not recommended. Oh no. Oh no. Yeah, let's just skip that. I hadn't thought about that, but Windows 95 obviously wants you to shut down Windows and then wait for it to be safe to turn off the computer. And it even have the sounds. And it should be possible to actually get this to work so that you can use the internet connection of the MiSTer with this, so that it can actually go online. As you can see, it's pretty slow. But a cool thing is, yeah, you can install software like Total Commander. So it's the same as I have on my desktop, Total Commander. And Total Commander has a Windows 95 version. It didn't get the registration to work though, even though I copied the file. That's a bit strange. Look at how slow it is. So actually running games on it doesn't seem to really be recommended. I had copied software for emulating CD drives and everything, but I'm guessing it's best to just ignore that. I had planned to try to install 3D Movie Maker, but I'm giving up on that. And also, it wasn't me who set up this Windows 95. There was someone sharing stuff, and that was one of the things shared. It seemed pretty cool. But I think that's about everything I have to show about DOS. How to use it on this. Whoop. Bluetooth pairing. Wasn't intended. There we go. I'll just reset it completely. Later I might make a video about the Minimic and how to configure that, but I'm still looking into how to do it myself. But I'm hoping to set up a disk with the Amiga, so that it has a hard disk to run from, and you can set up manually installing games and running WHD load games and so on. Hope you enjoyed the video. Until next time, bye again.